Steve Rogers, former member of the FBI National Joint Terrorism Task Force. Now, Steve, you know, a couple of things occur to me because we have not heard from authorities about any other suspects other than the man under arrest. I'm beginning to think that those may have been erroneous reports. You know, anytime, you know, there's a car accident and 20 witnesses to it, you get 20 versions of the events and none of them are the same. And, you know, some people jump to conclusions, information gets passed along that is not reliable. And I'm beginning to think that maybe there was one individual who was driving this truck, and that maybe he may be somewhat deranged since he's been taken to a hospital for a mental health exam. Your thoughts?
Well, this idea or this report that he was taken to the hospital for a mental health exam caught my attention immediately. Look, they may have reason to believe that they are dealing with a deranged person and not a person who planned to execute a terrorist attack. So that's something that they're going to find out pretty soon as this evaluation unfolds. Secondly, with regard to witnesses seeing people getting stabbed, that'll be pretty easily, quickly determined. If there are victims in the hospital, victims being treated for stab wounds, then we know that there was possibly some other individuals out there. But I would say that those are probably erroneous reports based on the fact we don't see entire neighborhoods being on lockdown. We don't see helicopters up there. We don't see a manhunt. So that probably is erroneous. But keep your eye on this information regarding the mental health evaluation. That's steering police one way or another with regard to whether this was a planned terrorist attack. They're
probably already inside this guy's home, wouldn't you think, Steve?
Oh, no question about it. They're inside his home, and they're probably inside the homes of some of his relatives and maybe close friends. Questioning them about his background. Does he have a mental health history? Who did he associate with? So you're absolutely right. As of now, they are full speed ahead with regard to collecting information and intelligence on this individual.
And that tent that is adjacent to the truck, I know we've been calling it a van, but it really is a truck. It's pretty large. I mean, are they processing the contents of that?
Oh, they sure are. They're processing the contents of what's in the truck. They don't want any evidence to be contaminated. That may be an area where some of the people were injured. There's obviously some blood in that area. They'll be taking DNA samples. But that tent is there to protect the evidence.
And, you know, when you look at the size of this thing, I mean, you know, that's not your everyday vehicle. You know, that would either be rented or this is an individual who may have a job, and that's, you know, his work truck that he uses. So they're going to be able to track that down, right?
Oh, they'll track that down rather quickly. Was it rented? Is it a friend's truck? Is it his truck? But that's another key question that has to be answered. That truck was used tonight as a weapon. Whether it was a terrorist attack or a lone wolf or some crazy individual, that became a weapon to kill people tonight.
Steve, how long do they keep these witnesses for? I'm sure there were witnesses we're hearing say there were a couple of hundred people that came out of that mosque. How long will they be there on scene?
Well, they'll be on scene depending on what type of information they could give. For example, if you've got witnesses who say they actually saw, without question, other individuals who were involved in stabbing people, they may be staying there for quite a while. Most of them are going to be released rather shortly.
What about protecting the mosque itself and other mosques now that this has happened?
Well, the best way to protect the mosque or any potential target goes back to what we've been saying all along. If you see something, say something. If you hear something, say something. The police cannot be everywhere all the time, so the greatest intelligence gathering group of people we have are the citizens who live and work in the neighborhoods that our houses of worship are in or that our homes are in.
Steve, on that point, if you see something, say something. I can tell you how many times I've been on the train myself or walking through the streets, and, you know, you see something a little strange, but you're just not sure if you should alert police or if you're just being a nuisance to them, if they really want to hear from you. What is your message to folks out there that see anything slightly strange? Should they immediately contact? Should they watch it a little bit longer before they contact authorities? Obviously, we don't want to bombard authorities with things that aren't necessary, but, you know, we also want to help out. But there's that fine line of what do we really do?
Well, you make the call. As you said, most people believe that, well, it's not necessary for me to call. It'll probably turn out to be nothing. But in this environment today, make the call. You'd rather be safe than sorry. And I've always shared with people when I was on a police force, you're not bothering the police. You're helping us. Make the call immediately. We would rather respond to the scene and find nothing than find out later that it was a bomb and we're picking up bodies.
And that call, is that 911?
Oh, I would immediately call 911, say, look, I see a package, I see something suspicious here. Obviously, if they have another number listed for you to call, yes. But your instinct will kick in. Believe me, people's instinct kicks in, and 99% of that instinct, you know what, you're absolutely on target. You'll know whether to call 911 or the number that they give out to give information to the police.
The people of London must be exhausted of the succession of attacks that they've had to endure and suffered through. Theresa May, the Prime Minister, had vowed to really crack down and begin to undertake extraordinary actions. What does that mean, extraordinary actions? Does that mean increased intelligence operation, the militarization of law enforcement? What does it mean, Steve?
Well, I believe it's going to be increased surveillance, human intelligence. That means intelligence on the ground is very important. I am sure they've picked up their electronic surveillance, and it may lead to some wiretapping and some more surveillance of social media without warrants. But I've noticed something right after the last attacks. They went on a long and hard journey executing search warrants, house after house after house, and they made multiple arrests. So in my view, they probably sped up their court process to get those warrants processed and to get individuals, that is the law enforcement, into those targets that they needed to search.
And after such attacks, we invariably hear that law enforcement was actually on to this individual or this group, but somehow, you know, they were unable to prevent their heinous actions. Do you think that's going to change?
Well, the problem with that is you got thousands of potential suspects you're looking at. What they're going to have to do, it's going to be a lot of manpower and a lot of money, which will be well worth it, by the way, because we're talking about human life. But they're going to have to, you see, you have to have a totality of information and intelligence that leads you to believe that the intelligence that you have is actionable, which means is that that becomes your primary target. So they're going to have to look real hard at some of the individuals that they have under surveillance and try to target them more so with regard to gathering information and just stay on top of them and just hope that you're right. Look, it takes a terrorist only one time to have an effective attack, but we can't make a mistake one time. We have to be absolutely right when we're following individuals trying to get information on them before an attack is executed.
Steve, could the UK learn a thing or two from the US? I mean, obviously, we're still susceptible to any type of terrorism, but we've been lucky enough to be able to curb some of this, it seems. What are we doing differently that the UK is not? We had one guest on saying that we're just integrating Muslim communities a lot better here.
Well, we are. I believe that what we need to do and what they need to do, it's all about assimilation. It's about everyone becoming part of the country they live in. I think the UK has had too many problems in being politically correct. I've heard that from police officers I know in the UK. No one there wants to offend anyone. Everyone wants to be nice to everyone. But we have to understand that we are nice to everyone when we welcome people and embrace them to become part of our society. And that means respect our culture, respect our flag, respect our values, and we respect yours.
Steve Rogers, stick around if you can. We want to thank you for all you've done for us. Just updating the information now, 12 minutes past the hour. It was shortly after midnight that a truck driven by a 48-year-old man plowed through a crowd of worshipers emerging from midnight prayers at a local mosque during Ramadan. One individual has died. Several others are injured, some of them quite seriously. The man driving the van now in police custody, taken to a hospital for a mental health examination. We'll be back